Next on POV, sculptor John Hauser has dedicated his life to making history come alive. But in El Paso, Texas, the past can be seen in different ways.
How can you waste such wonderful talent on glamorizing the oppression of Native American people?
We're celebrating the legacy. We're celebrating the legacy.
See how art and history collide in The Last Conquistador, only on POV. Stay tuned following this program to hear from the filmmakers and to find out how you can share your point of view. Major funding for POV has been provided by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, which believes that a great nation deserves great art, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
If they're representing evil in full knowledge, if they understand it, then that's the dark side. And something is wrong here. Something is dreadfully wrong.
He is my hero. I can understand the Indians being upset, but we need to look at what he truly, truly accomplished. And he was way ahead of his time.
We're celebrating the legacy. We're celebrating the legacy.
Fortunately, your side comes with $1 million.
No.
Why? The worst criminals in the history of the colonization.
Because it's history. You know,
who makes these decisions?
I was really torn in what to do. This was truly one of the hardest decisions, one of the most controversial decisions that I certainly made on my 4 years as a city councilor.
Everybody's been screwed, let's face it. When you go back far enough, what people hasn't been by some other people? It would seem to be the nature of our species, wouldn't it?
Rest of the pieces modeled in. So then we hoisted it up because if we had...
He opened a floodgate. He was a visionary and he was very tenacious. What is wrong with being a visionary? What is wrong with wanting to improve the world? We always see ourselves as bearers of good fruit, and that fruit is poison to other people.
The statue itself has become a moral dilemma for me. This kind of resurrection of history through art has its liabilities. History is full of all kinds of dark things that are unavoidable, unescapable. It's a burden for me as an artist. In a way, I've developed my own trap. And I think about it day and night. been working on this sculpture for about 6 years now, doing a great work of art. And I want to do something that would recognize the grandeur of Don Juan de Onate and Spanish exploration into the Southwest that eventually created Hispanic America. There are certain qualities that I think he had that I imagine must also be necessary for a sculptor to have to do this kind of a project. You have to have a vision, you have to have a goal, and you have to have a determination to do it no matter what.
Onate founded the capital of New Mexico a decade before the Pilgrims ever set foot on Plymouth Rock. He had these grand and glorious ideas and dreams. They were hoping to found a new kingdom. They were hoping to find gold.
In 1598, the Spanish king issued an order for Onate to undertake the settlement of this land they call New Mexico and there organize a Spanish kingdom. He was filled with expectations, looked forward to succeeding, and he thought New Mexico would become this great and wonderful kingdom with himself at the head.
El caballo se ve muy bonito de arriba, Santos. El caballo se ve muy bonito de arriba. Se nota la asimetría que tiene en parte. There have been people who have devoted their lives to causes, to their beliefs. They're living for a higher purpose. And you may not agree with that purpose. And I think those people, in a sense, are heroic. When you can put aside the physical comforts and the approbation of your fellow man, you can put that aside and you can go your own way regardless. I think that is an aspect of heroism. In the late 1980s, the city of El Paso was looking for ideas to make the downtown a vibrant new place again. I came up with the idea of taking the history of El Paso and portraying it in dramatic sculpture. And I thought, what a great thing to excavate all that history out of the soil, out of the dust of El Paso, and turn it into bronze and create these great figures, and we could have it like a sculpture walk through history. And I presented the idea to the city council, and everybody I talked with seemed to think it was a wonderful idea, too.
First thing that came to our minds was tourism and economy, because we're the 10th poorest city in America. So we need all the help we can get when it comes to tourist attractions and raising the economy and the level of living and so on.
They were going to choose 12 historical figures that represent us, this community. And most of them, not all of them, but most of them are basically, dead white men. It's Europeans, Spaniards, or Anglos that came here and defined what our history would be.
Although I had the concept of the 12 Travelers Memorial of the Southwest, the actual selection was under the control of the city of El Paso. The first figure that was selected by the city was Fray Garcia, who built the first mission at the Pass of the North. And it was the largest standing figure in Texas at the time in bronze. The second figure was selected to be Don Juan de Onate, who named the city El Paso. He brought the Hispanic culture, the language, the religion, everything that has sort of given the Southwest the peculiar character that it has today.
We were thrilled to see that El Paso was trying to bring Hispanic history to light with the statue of Onate. We've been watching that over the years, waiting to see when it's going to be finished so that we can hopefully go down and help them celebrate.
It will finally be an unveiling of our history.
There was a lot of discrimination to our Hispanic people in the way history was taught. Why has our history been so buried? What you keep hearing is oh, gee, these people are coming over the border now. We weren't newcomers. We have a legacy, I think, to be extremely proud of. But unfortunately, our people don't know their own history. This equestrian statue of Onate would be the opening for most of our kids to be able to look at the history and say, hey, we're involved in that too. You know, our ancestors did do something. Look what they brought. Look at all the things that they brought.
Hauser wanted everything to remain at that kind of Disney-fied, McDonaldized level without really seeing the guts and the gore of history. And he just persuaded some of the rich people in our city to fund this multi-million-dollar project.
Wherever we have to do anything that's historical, we try to be as accurate about it as we can. This stripes on either side, that was very common for that period. Well, that's going to be great. Yeah. The first thing is to start studying the history and to get a feel for what happened during that period and who you're dealing with.
I think the journey north was heroic, but they had not come to till the soil themselves. They relied for shelter, for food, and virtually everything else on the people who were already there.
When they reached San Juan Pueblo, Onate had the Indians kicked out of their homes, and the Spaniards were requisitioning food from all of the surrounding pueblos, and so the Indians were very, very disgruntled. An altercation broke out, and the Acoma killed some of the Spaniards.
Onate proclaimed a just war by fire and blood to fight your enemy and either prevail or lose your life in the attempt.
They pulled a small cannon up the back of Acoma Mesa, then they fired into the village. People were hacked to pieces in the street.
They came as killing machines. They brought dogs of war. They fed them human flesh so that they attacked, eating people alive. I can't think of anything more terrifying. They're twice as big as the normal Pueblo Indian would have been then. 250 pounds.
I can only imagine the terror and the fear as these men went up and down the village, killing Acoma women and children and elders.
The Battle of Acoma was a near genocide of Acoma Pueblo. The population of Acoma being 2,000 with only 250 survivors. The streets were piled with bodies and running red with blood.
Where Acoma is situated, the mesa itself and the surrounding valley is holy ground. That place has power. It has spiritual power, and I believe has given the people power. I can't imagine, I really can't imagine what took place or how the people dealt with something as traumatic as a Holocaust, losing that much of your people. I remember when I first saw those images of the statue down in El Paso. It was such a feeling of anger and disgust. I thought a lot of people either don't know their own history, or the scary part is they really do want to honor somebody who was a perpetrator of genocide and violence. It slaughtered the people. That's a scary part. And so I thought to myself, we have to do something about the statue.
Good evening. This is Art Tour Santa Fe on Talk Radio Central. Tonight I have with me Myris Chino, talking about his own work and about larger issues in art right now. I was reading a quote from Mark Simmons, who most people know for the histories he's written here, in regards to the statue of Onate, and he said something to the effect that it's time to let it go. Speaking of the native people. And how would you respond to that?
When these things they continue to get funded through the racially biased councils of El Paso, how can we move on? If the Nazis were the only ones that recorded the history, I'm sure that we would have a different view of history now. Violence is violence, genocide is genocide. There has to be a recognition about what really happened in this area.
How do we deal with the crimes of the past when we're trying to recognize our history? Sure, Onate had his faults, and maybe he did commit this atrocity at Acoma, but he represented the morality of a different period. So it's not for me to defend him or to accuse him. I want these statues to be like fingers that are pointing into a certain era in the history of the Southwest and saying, here it is, look at this and think about it, good and bad, the whole thing, the history. The whole development of civilization, you know, is a very exciting animal to me. I grew up in an artistic family. My father was Ivan Hauser, who was assistant sculptor to Gutzen Borglum in carving Mount Rushmore. My memories of Mount Rushmore, of course, are the big faces up on the mountain. But as a little child, you accept everything. I mean, the sun coming up, the moon, you know, the big mountains, the trees, the way flowers grow, and then big faces on the mountain. That's just one more thing. So it's all part of the milieu of childhood. But I think it did have a strong effect because I was not daunted when I began to think of doing big sculptures. To me, it was as natural to do a horse that's 36 feet high as it is to pluck a flower. Because good art has a perpetual presence, the same way the Colosseum of Rome endures or the Eiffel Tower will endure. And they're still with us because people appreciate what they are and what they represent, and that they go back. It's part of our human heritage. You know, and it's similar with what we're doing too, I think. What I felt that I have the vision of these monuments and the statue. I know what this 12 Travelers sculpture walk could look like. I know what it could be. All I need is to convince other people so they can tune in and plug in and share the same vision.
I think it got bigger as the months went by, and bigger. And I'm talking about the equestrian statue, the horse itself. By the time it's finished, we're going to be the city that's got the largest equestrian statue in the world.
It sounded very exciting, yes, absolutely. Very exciting for El Paso until we started getting emails and some other correspondence and really realizing who Onate was, what he was about. It's a glorification of Don Juan de Onate, and the Native Americans were devastated. But then again, who really knows the history? I mean, who knows the history of Onate? Very few people, very few, even in the Southwest.
So they herded the Acoma that were still alive down off of the mesa across that desolate country that is frozen in the wintertime in New Mexico through the snow, herded them to Santo Domingo Pueblo, where Onate was awaiting them.
The boys and girls under 12 were given over to missionaries to distribute, to be Christianized, but in fact, mostly they were all sold on the slave market.
That is so beyond what anybody can even comprehend, is having their children taken away. I mean, feel that. You will never see them again. And to be worried about them the whole time for what they are, what they're doing. Yeah. Well, it's pretty emotional and pretty hard.
He held a formal trial to deal with the survivors and meted out a variety of punishment to the couple of dozen men of fighting age. He ordered they have one foot cut off. This was not unusual. What was unusual was Onate, in a sense, being lenient and merely cutting off a foot and not garroting them or having them beheaded or something of the sort.
Oh, yeah, that's what they used to do in that day and age, so that was okay. That was an okay punishment. When is that ever okay? When is that ever okay? You know?
Okay, as honestly as a protest, we decided that maybe we could do a sculpture of a foot to symbolize that kind of brutality and terror in those times.
You might need a little bit more.
I'm not trying to just raise trouble, but I want to make people aware of the narrow-mindedness of the people who want to push this kind of statue through.
That's a size of a 6-foot person at the bottom. And it's cast in resin, so when people buy these, we want to give them one of those in bronze so they have an historic representation of the scale of the finished piece.
Anyway, these cost $5,000 and $3,000 is tax deductible. That's another wonderful thing, since it's a non-profit work. And they'll go to $6,000 in October because we need to raise more money to finish it. You know, we're not quite there yet. That's wonderful. Yay! Thank you so much.
As you may know.
Well, what's the controversy?
The controversy is that because this conquistador is a specific person, I mean, he actually lived, okay? He wreaked some violence while he lived around El Paso.
He was not politically correct.
He was not politically correct. So, well, I mean, he sort of ravaged the countryside. I mean, he was not a gentle conquistador. He was a typical conquistador. And he killed and et cetera, et cetera. Pillaged and what have you, yeah. So he's not sort of a model that you might expect to be represented in the middle of El Paso. But look at the detail in this. Huh? Look at isn't it beautiful detail? Yeah, it's really gonna be nice. Fabulous. Yeah, it really is.
What I didn't realize about this statue was the symbolism that it brought. I mean, in one hand, Onate has a scroll, a toma is what it's called, a resolution declaring, I have ultimate authority and power, and this is on my land.
You're really commemorating that one group of white people took away the homeland of another group of brown people. Is that really the great vision and the great value that America is founded upon? Conquest? Maybe a lot of people do agree. Maybe this nation is founded on conquest. Maybe America is founded on genocide.
Project of his own, huh?
Same girl?
Same girl.
In our city, Latinos are 80% and whites are 20%. Yet the whites still have an inordinate amount of power. But unfortunately, it isn't only just a white-brown thing, because many browns want to be white. It's real complicated. We all have a legacy of both sides. Part Indian from one side and part Spaniard from another side. That's what we are, you know, and so which side are you going to take?
Oh my God, he's gorgeous. Can I? Well, in Onate, but we got to meet a descendant of his horse.
Wild horses of the United States are all Spanish.
Spanish barbs also.
Fruit trees.
I had that inner conflict because the blood that runs in my veins is Spanish and Native American. So I'm torn, like most Hispanics should be. They should be really searching their inner souls, in my opinion.
My family trees. I've been fortunate enough to follow at least 4 lines back to Spain. I have found that a descendant of Hieronymo Marquez, one of the colonists who came with Don Juan de Onate, and he was a loyal colonist. They were very prominent people that came with Onate.
Onate was the hero of the Red Men. He didn't come as a conqueror. He sent a notebook around with the seal of Spain. All the pueblos gathered in one spot, and they made a treaty.
If we look at the East Coast, try to find 19 villages anywhere east of the Mississippi, and yet we're accused of destroying the Indians, and they're still here.
They're even ungrateful.
Right. Which one of us hasn't had a benefit of the things that the Spanish brought in? You know, and to say, you shouldn't have come, well, you know what? Sorry, they did come. They're here, deal with it, get over it.
Absolutely.
It was the mindset of those people that came to this area. It's the attitude that has been ingrained here in the Southwest for hundreds of years. That's what I resent, and that's what I want to stop. But I think we have a good chance of shutting down that statue. We're going to go down to El Paso too and take the protest.
If they're having funding problems at this point, it makes perfect sense to let the public be aware of that.
Then we can say, okay, can we have some time at the city council? And we say, this is what's going on. We have to make them understand that this statue is not
it's
acceptable.
The subject matter, and just maybe put a proposal right there and just say, we stop it right here. We're at the point that it's at.
Yeah.
That mindset's got to change. It's got to change.
But we've been working on this movement to get the support of all the tribal leaders in New Mexico to denounce statue to Onate.
Hello, Herman. My name is Myris Chino.
History is very important to our future generations.
We wanted the city of El Paso to understand that every decent human being who has a boundary says, okay, this has gone too far.
Invaders whose legacy is violence and terror that we oppose. It is to the City Council of El Paso, Texas, that we direct this statement.
Opponents of a statue honoring Spanish conquistador Don Juan de Onate are literally putting their foot down. Acoma artist Myris Chino now plan to give the city a gift of sorts.
It was brutal and it was violent.
Their anti-Onate efforts.
Controversial statue.
El Paso City Council, more controversy.
Conquistador Don Juan de Onate.
If some of those things that we read were true, then it was definitely something that the city council had to know about.
Honoring this conquistador will bring shame to this city. We will see to that.
I think the goal is ultimately to destroy the project, but that's not going to happen.
Item number 6 is discussion and action for a permanent stay on any public funding for the Juan de Onate Monument or under the jurisdiction of the city of El Paso.
What I would like to remind the council of is many of my demographic family people, Hispanic females, professional women, mothers, daughters, that have an interest in seeing something that is tangible, positive, and substantial in El Paso, and to leave it as a legacy to all of the citizens of the Southwest, I think it's very important.
Our city here is thinking about putting up a statue
of an individual that massacred or tried to wipe us off the face of this earth. I pray to my grandfathers up in the heavens that you have a heart here, the way your mothers and your fathers and your grandfathers raised you to be good. You're going to tell your grandchildren, I remember 9/11. Well, we remember Juan de Onate. Send them back to hell.
History's got its good and its bad points, but this is El Paso's history. We spent a lot of money. There's been a lot of work in the private sector dedicated to this project. It is going to be a fantastic monument, and I support moving this to some sort of finality.
This is going to hurt El Paso's reputation. You're going to see the protesters out there. We're going to be on national news, all right. We will be on national news, and it's not going to be good. At one time, I was very, very supportive of this statue, but the more I read, the more I learned about this character, Mr. Onate, the more I was surprised, the more I was appalled. I mean, I just don't think that $1 million of public money is appropriate. Not with it's gonna create a lot of heartache for this community. I want to make a motion to reject this statue.
Second your motion, Mr. Cobos.
I don't know yet how I'm going to vote on this, but
Christian has a comment.
this is a real troubling situation.
So we do have a motion made by Representative Cobos and seconded by Representative Lozano to return the project to the 12 Travelers Committee. The motion fails 5-3.
At night, I can't read because my eyes hurt so much, and they hurt during the day. They hurt going to work. And finally, I went to see an ophthalmologist, and she told me that I was developing glaucoma. The fact that the possibility of going blind is a terrifying thing for anybody, I think, especially for an artist. It's something that and when you have a disease that attacks the eye, and there's no cure for it, you know, then you're really in a predicament. It's something that has to be accepted and endured. There are times when I have considered that I may not be able to see this monument when it goes up. I mean, it may go up in bronze, but I won't be able to perceive it.
I am running for re-election, seeking another term on the El Paso City Council. I love campaigning the old-fashioned way, door-to-door.
Estoy en la campaña. Vengo a presentarme personalmente. Mr. Belmontes, hi. Hi, guys. Anthony Cobos, State Representative. How are you doing? Good to see you again. I'm out on the campaign trail. We're looking for some real, genuine opinions. I'm looking to see what Segundo Barrio thinks.
Well, I don't know, but I think those funds should be spent somewhere else, don't you think so? Besides on the statue, say for example housing, the conditions of the streets. We got a lot of problems here. If we're going to spend some money on the statue, I think there's some other projects, some other things that we can spend the money on that. Because if you stop and think, I mean, if you ask the people around here, who's Onate? I mean, you know, his history, but who's Onate? No?
Yeah. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it very much. You have a good day. Thank you. Good seeing you. You guys being good? All right. Doing all right?
Mister, you were commenting something about the Segundo Barrio and how you want to help it. Look at this. Look at the kids playing over there.
See?
Look what it's turning into.
It's really an injustice for us to have some resources in one area and just not enough resources in the neighborhoods where, you know, you saw the children. They want a park. They want
They have needs, and it's unfortunate. It really is. Certainly class did have a lot to do with the opposing views of the statue. It's quite obvious that supporters of the statue are predominantly West Siders, Anglos of European descent, and of higher wealth, definitely.
And the moment is coming. There it is. It's just on the other side of the fence. I can't resist. Well, this is tantalizing, isn't it? If you make something really big, it does have a power, only because of its size, and that's exciting. You rub your hand across the thigh muscles, you know, which expand maybe 5 feet from one side to the other, you know, and you just feel the power. This is the way a horse is in your dreams, you know. This is the power that you feel is there even when you don't see it. When this equestrian monument is finally up, the battle will be over. And there'll be no point in anybody trying to fight it anymore. And people will accept it, and people will begin to love it. By being surrounded by good art, the quality of their own appreciation will rise.
My heart's beating fast.
My gosh, it's nice to have an appreciative crowd.
We'll probably never get this close to it again.
Some people call him the last conquistador, but he's not the last conquistador. The idea of conquest is one that is very much a part of who we are today. By focusing completely on these notions that make a lot of sense to you, making no attempt to see the other person's point of view, that's how evil comes about.
We're undergoing incredible stresses, and it has stretched on year after year. About 2/3 of those in the colony, including a number of the missionaries, simply deserted. And that really spelled the beginning of the end for Onate.
When Onate came, there were 90 city-states on the Rio Grande. 9-0. Within Onate's period, they have been reduced to 21 from 90. Burning down villages, simply enslaving the people there. So that was the Spaniards' work. They did a lot.
He was part of a larger movement that massacred 40 million people in both South and North America. It's the American Holocaust. To me, it's a human tragedy that those societies, the Indians, the indigenous communities, weren't allowed to explore where their history would take them. It was just chopped off.
So Onate was recalled to Mexico City in disgrace, and these charges were brought against him. They took depositions from the soldiers, they had translators, and they took depositions from the Indians, and he had a trial and was found guilty.
He was condemned for using too much force at Acoma. Certainly to the modern mind, it's a disturbing incident in the extreme. And all of that cast a shadow over the family reputation established by his father. So instead of following his father's footsteps and adding to the greatness of the family escutcheon, this left a tarnish upon it.
What a masterpiece. I'm a little dazed. No, I know. I've had about 4 hours of sleep in 2 days. But anyway, so it's a little bit like a dream.
Welcome home. Welcome home. Big horse. Gosh.
We were not the aggressors. We were not the ones we were not forcibly converting Spaniards to become traditional pueblos. Okay. Well, you know, the depiction. Yes.
Let me talk a minute.
Interrupt you a minute.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, this is our forum. These people have come in. What do you mean?
We are taxpayers.
Conchita, this is a public group. We have to let these people talk.
Let him answer the question.
Okay, let me listen to him first.
Okay, Mr. Hauser, how can you waste such wonderful talent on glamorizing the oppression of Native American people? Let me finish asking the question. Onate murdered 800 people. 800 at Gran Cuivera. He wiped out 3 Indian pueblos. I have a right to ask a question.
You know, it hurts me too to think that this piece is seen that way, and I can understand how you can see it that way. When I conceived of this project, I conceived it as a project of history. Of course, what happened with the Native Americans is very unfortunate. It happened not only here; it happened all over. And I don't condone that. I don't justify it. I don't applaud it. I deplore it.
Why was it okay for all these peaceful, spiritual Indians to kill unarmed men, women, pregnant women, children, and priests?
To survive.
This program is
To survive.
Let me say something, please.
This program.
May I say something?
I'd like to have my question answered by.
There is no.
Mr. Garcia.
This program is over.
May I say something first?
You call this a resolution?
Huh?
You call this a resolution?
What?
Like this offensive statute. It's evil.
Well, John,
hello.
I'm glad that you came out to speak with us.
Well, I am too.
Yeah. Well,
and I didn't realize quite what a commotion this was causing until I got back either.
Well, as you can see, that it's very emotionally charged.
Yes, I know that.
and the reason that it goes through generation and generation of grief. I mean, it certainly doesn't end. Did you know the history of Onate before you took this project on?
Somewhat.
You must have known that he was convicted as what could now be considered crimes against humanity, and really is considered a war criminal. Yet, you still took this project on. I can't see making this huge statue to somebody of that stature. And we're going to hold you responsible, John Hauser, for this very offensive statue.
Well, that's...
They're doing the same thing Onate did. The same thing. The only way it's different is because it's a different era and it's a different form of cruelty. They might not be cutting off our foot like their ancestors did, but they're hurting our hearts and they're being cruel and they're digging it in some more. That's all they're doing, and they don't see that they're being like him. You know, it's really sad because we have to be subject to that, and is it cruel to us? We continue battling. The battles are just different. It's just a different battleground. It's still the same thing.
We're going to come into this little room. Just have a seat right here in this chair, please. Okay, so before you come forward, let me just make sure I'm nice and clear in here.
I didn't realize the power of art, to tell you the truth, until this statue was done, and I began to see what kind of response people had to it. And I began to realize that art does have a power.
Hold it right there.
And with that power comes responsibility. The inhumanity of that period was unrecognized by the perpetuators of those crimes. And we blotted out in the same way that Onate did. That there was a certain blindness in the society of that time, and that blindness is still with us today. I had neglected the depth of the injury that he had done in history to the Native American people. And at that point now, it's too late to rectify. It's a suffering for me, too, to have to carry this, because it's not what I intended people to get out of this work. But it's something I think that I should have been able to anticipate, and I didn't. I'm sorry.
There were only 2 people running, my opponent and I. I lost the election, so it's time to pack up and move on. A lot of the wealthy socioeconomic class did not come out and support me, while a lot of the southern neighborhoods did.
When you're in politics, you open yourself up to scrutiny and to being ridiculed when you change your position on something. But I thought it was in the best interest of our community, especially after learning that the public funding was going to be extremely significant.
Come down. He's gonna have a Halloween party. Somebody told me to go as a wannabe white man.
There is a big difference. There is this chasm between two cultures, which I believe will never be fully understood by either. It's something that I believe that will always be.
The issue is that the people understand that the history was written by the victor and that there's another point of history.
The movers and shakers of this city and this community, it determines what images, all kinds of images, contemporary images and historical images, are going to be imposed upon us. And it's hard to get our history out there, but you have to search very, very hard. It's there. If you look for it, you can't see the perspective of the other side.
I thank you that you came here to say that we will not accept these kinds of things. How the people treat us, how they treat our history, we will not accept it. It's going to make a difference in how we see ourselves as Indian people and how our children see themselves. This is only a step standing up against this atrocity, this obscenity.
but we can carry it over to other larger issues that confront us as Indian people. That's the purpose of it. That's why we're here.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We are celebrating the sculptor, Juan.
This morning we commemorate one portion of our long history in the Pass of the North. And I'm addressing it to those people over there too, if they would care to listen. It was solely my intention to recognize that portion of our past, never to offend the present. Let us dedicate this monument to the memory of the struggle of the indigenous people of that time and to that small group of intrepid colonists. Thank you.
It is a sad monument. It's a monument that incorporates a lot of blood, a lot of sorrow. History is full of all kinds of dark things. If you could tell the history the way it actually was, probably nobody would want the statue ever unveiled. Probably people wouldn't come to look at it. Probably they would go away from it. And maybe the heroes of history are not the conquerors, they're often the conquered people. They are the people that have been able to live through a terrible period and yet helps the society move forward. Maybe the heroes are really the people who are unsung. Now that the Onate is finished, this is a maquette for a colossal figure that represents the Pushteca. There were the pre-Columbian traders. Look through here, you can imagine that might be the U.S.-Mexican border. And I would like to have 1 foot on the U.S. side and 1 foot on the Mexican side and show that this figure represents the time before either nation existed. It's going to be about 5 feet taller than the Statue of Liberty. Onate was a warm-up exercise.
To order The Last Conquistador on DVD for $29.95 plus shipping and handling, call toll-free 877-868-2250 or write to the address on your screen.
When I first met John Hauser, I didn't know what to expect, but he surprised me. I wasn't expecting someone who would move me with the way he was so passionate about his artwork. He was someone who I identified with in some ways. He's someone who believes that art has power to educate people, and he has very noble ideals.
John is a man of extraordinary vision and tenacity. He also entered into this project knowing the history. He knew what Onate did. He knew the kind of man Onate was. We all engage in this willful blindness. We do it every day. And the lesson of the film, if there is one, is that we need to be very, very careful when we pass judgments, when we become so focused on what we're doing, and we're so sure that what we're doing is right, that we don't take into account the ideas and opinions and perspectives and experiences of others, I mean, that's all, that is all that is required for evil to come about. That's it. It's so simple.
POV wants to hear your point of view about this program. Email your comments to pov@pbs.org. Visit the POV website where you can share your thoughts, interact with special web-only features, and read articles and interviews related to this program. You can also watch previews and full versions of selected programs, or download a free viewer's guide to the entire season of POV. All this and more at pbs.org. Major funding for POV has been provided by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, which believes that a great nation deserves great art, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.